Well, if there's a massive fraud ring, there's a cover-up going on. In Minnesota, they were just caught forging documents, trying to cover their tracks. Should Tim Walz resign?
Well, I think Tim Walz should resign, but look, I've beaten up on Tim Walz enough. I don't want to do it anymore in your program. I almost feel bad for the guy, except for the fact that he should have seen this. And whether there was something criminal, whether he was aware of the fraud, which would be criminal, or whether he simply looked the other way, it's a massive, massive failure of government. You have to ask yourself, if you're in Minneapolis and you have a person who came to the United States impoverished 2 months ago, and all of a sudden they're driving a Mercedes or a Lamborghini, it is your job as a public official to ask, how did that person get so rich so quickly when they're also collecting a welfare check? The fact that that's failed so often in Minnesota, but frankly, it failed in California and other states as well, means that we have political I would say political corruption, welfare corruption at a very massive scale.
The US Congress is taking a closer look at a multi-billion-dollar taxpayer fraud scandal that's taken place in Minnesota. The first hearings were held today.
Ms. Lee, the IGs are hired to identify fraud. They haven't identified fraud. The IGs have failed. But anyway.
You all have failed.
No.
You all continue to fail. We've done nothing. You've had the gavel, Mr. Comer. We barely do hearings on anything that actually affects change.
Tensions flaring on Capitol Hill today as the House Oversight Committee held its first hearing into the Minnesota fraud scandal.
Thanks for demonstrating my opening statement.
Mr. Chairman, order, decorum. She's off the rails.
Reclaiming my time. I'm not off the rails, please.
You are totally off the rails.
Nancy, enough with your tropes.
Several committee Democrats appearing eager to talk about anything but the fraud.
What percent of sexual assaults in the United States are committed by white men?
I have legislation that will take Trump's name off that building.
Raise your hand if you oppose the pardon of George Santos.
I stand with the Somali and the immigrant community.
Republican Congressman Brandon Gill pressing the Democrats' witness.
Let me ask you, does large-scale Somali immigration make Minnesota stronger or weaker?
Certainly stronger.
Certainly stronger. Do you know what percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on food stamps?
No.
54%.
Other Republicans targeted Minnesota Governor Tim Walz.
Governor Walz needs to step down. Him saying he will stay on to investigate is like O.J. Simpson saying he will investigate the murder of his ex-wife.
Tim Walz should resign, but regardless, I think he'll be leaving the office in handcuffs.
And Republicans have also been pointing the finger at Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison. They've invited him and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz to come and testify before the committee next month on February 10th. But today, Ellison put out a pretty defiant statement saying Republicans are just spreading, quote, BS and playing politics. He then referred to himself as, quote, the most effective prosecutor of Medicaid and civil fraud.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz announced he will not run for a third term in office. He'll be focusing on fraud allegations in the state's welfare system, which he says became a political crisis for him. The Trump administration has highlighted Minnesota over allegations of fraud by non-profit groups administering the state's childcare and social services. Mr. Walz confessed an organised criminal group had sought to take advantage of Minnesota's generosity. However, he claims he's making progress to fight the fraudsters.
We should give everybody, like, these competency tests, right? The cognitive, they call it cognitive. You know, I'm the only president that went for cognitives. I think every president and vice president should be forced to take cognitive exams, mental tests, like, are they intelligent? Wouldn't it be nice Do you think Walz could pass a cognitive test, as an example? Do you think Kamala could? I don't think Gavin could. He's got a good line of crap, but other than that, he couldn't pass. I mean, here's a guy who didn't want to have water coming down from the Pacific Northwest. Why? You know, they have a little tiny fish, this big, it's a little tiny fish. Not doing well. You know why? No water. They're sending water. It's too much. It's killing the fish. So they cut it off. And then they have 25,000 houses burned down. They don't know why. No, I think, I believe in it. I'm the only one that took a cognitive test. I do, it's the worst. If I don't do a medical exam, because I've had times where I went longer, because I'm busy. If I don't do a medical exam, they say, Trump's not doing an exam. There must be something wrong with him. If I do the exam, they say, why did he do this? Why did he do this part of an exam? He did too much. There's something wrong with him.